Chapter 1 The Twilight Princess. Hurry, take Link and go. I'll hold them off until you two are able to hide. Just go. Come with us. Don't stay behind. The village is so close. Link's head hurt. That was the first thing he noticed before he even opened his eyes. He chose to keep them shut, trying to relax so his headache would go away. Other things became clear to him in those moments, though. The young man felt cold, and there was an intense smell of rot and moisture in the air, almost unbearable, in fact. It was to the point that Link quickly realized he had never smelled something in such an overwhelming way before. Another thing that he realized was that he was laying on something hard, like stone, and there was a tight pressure around his left wrist. Just what had happened? He remembered some creature grabbing him, and then an intense pain as he felt his body contort. Then, nothing. Ilya and Colin, they had been in trouble. Yes, it was all coming back to him. Slowly, Link's eyes opened, and he saw just where he was. He was in a prison cell of some kind, his vision blurry with bright spots that wouldn't go away, no matter how many times he blinked. Looking down, he had a start as he saw the paws of a beast below him. On the left paw, a shackle was fastened. Link tried to stand up and get away from the creature he had apparently been stepping on, but still found the beast was beneath him and... Wait. The pressure in his left wrist, it was right where the shackle was. Panic quickly arose within him. He had felt something happen with his body earlier, but surely he hadn't changed in such a drastic way, right? Yet as he moved his legs, he saw the paws below him move with his desires. He turned to look at his body, to see his torso was behind him, a fluffy mass fitting for a wolf. Somehow, he had changed. By reflex, he tried to exclaim something out loud, but all that came out was a guttural whine. This was beyond anything he had expected or thought was possible. He was a beast. Did that shadowy creature do this to him? It was no wonder the world around him smelled so strongly. His senses were heightened greatly. His mind went back to Ilya and Colin. What had happened to them? Had they changed as well? In front of him were iron bars, clearly indicating he was in a prison cell of some sort. He looked down at the shackle around his paw. The chain attached to it was bolted to the floor. In a desperate move, he wrapped his sharpened teeth around it and tried to tear it apart. He struggled for a minute, but to no avail. Feeling an ear twitch on his own, Link suddenly became aware that he wasn't alone. By apparent instinct, he realized something was behind him, and he turned to see a most unusual creature that had not been there before. The new arrival was humanoid and not very large, though with his new form his sense of scale was off. Colin may have been taller, in fact, the humanoid saying imp-like in size. Grey skin and long ears were evident, and Link's gaze was drawn to a large stone helmet resting upon the imp's head. It was an eerie, ancient-looking thing, appearing incomplete as it only had a single, wide stone eye that somehow seemed aware. Where the other eye of the helmet would be was a gap, where the imp gazed at Link with a ruby eye. A tuft of orange hair peeked above the helmet. Looking further, it became increasingly obvious the imp was female. Her skin below the neck was also grey, though teal glowing runes adorned its limbs. But there were bits of black that almost seemed like skin-tight clothing. But other than this and the helmet, the creature was naked. The imp's eyes widened, and a grin spread across her face. With surprising agility, she leapt into the air and landed soundlessly between Link and the iron bars. "I found you," she declared, grinning wider so that a single sharp tooth stood out amongst the rest. Link didn't know what this imp wanted, or even what she truly was. That helmet of hers really made his hair stand on end. He kept wanting to look at its stone eye rather than the imp's, as though that was truly how he should make eye contact. Maybe it was because he was now a beast and could sense such things. But a radiating vulgarity emanated from the stone headpiece. Not even thinking fully, Link bared his fangs and began to growl at the imp. Was she a monster? She did speak, but that was no guarantee. He was ready to lash out if he needed to against this thing standing before him. Rather than being intimidated, she scoffed. So scary, she teased, her voice oozing a smug sarcasm. Crossing her arms, she cocked her head to one side, somehow maintaining her balance despite the heavy-looking headpiece. Are you sure you want to treat me like that? Snarling like a beast? I was planning on helping you out if you're nice, but... She turned around as though to leave. Link could see she had more than a tuft of hair, but enough to make a large ponytail. The hair neatly growing orange and red. Link was surprised at her words that offered to help him get out of here. It was about the last thing he expected from her. He stopped growling and by reflex tried to speak. However, all that came out was a groaning whine. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't form real words. Turning back around, the imp smirked. Was that you trying to apologize? Come on, boy, speak up. It was clear she didn't actually expect him to talk. She was just mocking him. You humans are obedient to a fault, aren't you? Though, you're not even human anymore. You're just a beast, huh? Link really wanted to snap at her or startle her with a loud bark or something. While this imp was taunting him, Ilya and Colin could be in real danger. And heck, those monsters may have even attacked the village itself. However, he realized that if he was going to get any assistance, he was going to have to play nice. He couldn't help but be frustrated, though. There was a million questions running through Link's mind, and he couldn't ask a single one of them. The imp was pleased with Link remaining still and quiet, letting out a giggle as she stepped back a bit. Good. See, I knew you'd realize who's really in charge here. Now hold still, Mutt. She held her hands close together and an orange orb of energy appeared between her palms. With a small cry, she unleashed the energy and cut the chain. Link still had the shackle around his paw, and some of the chain was still attached, but he was free to move around. You look shocked, the imp chirped, drawing Link's attention back to her. I bet you're wondering just where we are, huh? As she spoke, she leapt backwards, floating along until she hit the bars, which she phased right through. If you can get out of here, maybe I'll tell you. What game was she playing at? Link wanted nothing more than to demand answers, but all he could do was bark and snarl. He wouldn't even do that at the moment, worried if he annoyed the imp too much, she'd just leave. But there had to be some reason she freed him. She had to gain something from it. Snorting lightly, Link started to move around the cell, looking for a way out. He noticed right away how easy it was for him to move about, despite his new form. Link could move his forelegs properly and in a steady rhythm, right off the bat. Whether it was some form of animalistic instinct or something else at play, he could only guess. But he was just grateful for this silver lining. The real question was how he was meant to find a way out of the cell. Those iron bars looked way too sturdy for him to burst open or pull apart. Link found himself sniffing, his new nose picking up a tidal wave of new smells that he never thought possible, finding himself feeling a bit overwhelmed, in fact. The imp tittered a bit as he moved around the cell, looking for anything that could help him. Before too long, he found something of note. Along the bars, there was a gap in the stone floor where some loose dirt was. Moving quickly, Link found himself pawing at the dirt, finding he could dig into it with ease. Digging down, the newly formed wolf found himself squeezing under the bars and got to the other side. Yet when he got fully out and looked around, Link saw that the imp was gone. He looked around but couldn't spot her, yet after a moment he heard her giggle. After another moment, he felt something heavy fall onto his back. He let out a snarling bark of startled instinct, for a brief moment thinking he was under attack. As he turned around to bite at the potential enemy, he saw it was the imp sitting on his back. She grinned back at him, clearly enjoying his frustrations. You're not as dumb as you look. You're pretty smart for a human, or what used to be a human. She leaned forward and grabbed hold of one of Link's ears.
But hey, I like you, so I'll help you get out of here.
She then tugged at his ear, just enough for it to hurt.
However, you have to do exactly as I say. Got it?
Link was really getting annoyed with this imp. Normally he didn't let people get to him if he could help it, but this was such a frustrating situation. All his friends could be in danger for all he knew, and he knew for a fact 2 of them were kidnapped. But he had no choice. He had to give in to her demands. Without a way to properly respond, he did his best to nod. That was apparently good enough for the imp as she let go of his ear.
Good,
the small creature chirped.
Now, come on. The way forward is in the next cell. Chop, chop.
She dug her heels into Link's sides a bit as if he were a horse she was prompting forward. All he could do in response was let out a huff and move along. If he was able to turn back into a human, he'd have some choice words for her. He was always taught to be polite to women, but she was no lady, and not just because she wasn't human. Looking around a bit more, Link saw that the 2 were in some sort of dungeon area. A door leading elsewhere was closed with a large padlock keeping it locked. So he entered the next cell, the door being open just as he was ordered. There was a chain with a handle on it coming from the ceiling. To Link's shock, the imp girl's hair moved and grew larger, forming an orange hand. This hand gripped the chain and pulled it down, a part of the wall opening up and leading downwards. He didn't have to be told this was the way further, and went through the entrance as the 2 went down a small slope. On the other side, the 2 entered some sort of sewer-like area, running water trickling below. What got Link's attention, though, was a white flame that was hovering nearby. It just stayed in place, not appearing to be hostile or dangerous in any way. The imp, however, tittered at its side.
Oh, how interesting. Say, Wolf, hone your senses. You'll be able to see all sorts of things. Give it a try.
Link wasn't sure what she was going on about or how to hone his senses, but he closed its eyes and concentrated for a moment, trying to be at ease and open up to the world around him. It was the only thing he could think to do. After a few moments, he opened his eyes again and was startled. The flame was gone, and in its place, a person appeared. The person was nearly transparent, glowing white and not seeming fully there. Looking closer, Link saw this person was a man, a soldier of some sort, wearing a full suit of armor and wielding a spear. This soldier didn't seem to notice Link and the imp, as if they were invisible to him. As Link took a step closer, he heard the man mutter to himself, "Can't run any farther. Must be safe here. Have to be safe." He sounded terrified and out of his mind about something.
Well, what do you think?
The imp asked, clearly having seen and heard what Link had.
That was a soldier from the other world. There are spirits like him all over.
Other world? What other world? Link recalled being pulled through that black wall and the world around him changed. The colors were either more vibrant or darker than ever, the same effect being present here. So, was he pulled into some other place? Was that why he changed? Spirits above, he wished he could speak.
Now come on, get moving,
the imp urged, patting at the top of Link's head in a somewhat harsh manner. Link snipped a bit, but the imp just found this reaction amusing as she once more dug her heels into his sides. With a huff, the wolf kept going on. These sewers were large and almost maze-like. For someone that spent so much time in nature, it was a strange sight. As he went, small creatures occasionally appeared, but they were unlike anything Link had seen. They were black things the size of large rats, scurrying about with tendrils dragging behind them. They didn't seem to have heads, or even faces, just red markings where their faces should be. In most cases, these creatures were scurrying around corners or otherwise out of Link's paths and didn't seem interested in him. Sometimes, though, they darted at him to attack. Without thinking, Link lunged a bit into these creatures and crunched down, killing them quickly before he tossed them aside. If they hadn't looked so otherworldly, he'd feel bad, but the worst part of taking them out was that they tasted like rotting flesh. As he went, Link had to wonder what good even escaping this place was. He was stuck as a wolf, and was at the beck and call of some unknown creature riding on his back. Was it possible to even turn him back? What caused him to be like this in the first place? He once more went over what happened to him, the wall he had encountered, and how he was dragged through. Then he ended up in a parallel version of the woods he knew so well, the strange colors and dull sun. There were those black squares too, which were also in this place as well. He tried touching one at one point, but his paw just went right through it. Along the way, he encountered another white wisp and focused on it like before. The wisp was another soldier, cowering and wielding a spear, whispering to himself.
What are those black things? How do I get out of here?
Link wished he could help the soldier in some way, but even if the two could interact, it's not like he could speak in this new form. Eventually, the wolf and the imp reached a spiraling staircase heading upward.
See? I told you I'd get you out of here. You can thank me later, mutt.
Her voice was teasing, as if she found the entire situation funny. As Link went up the stairs slowly, he soon came across an obstacle. There was a hole in the stairway, apparently having crumbled away with age. Reeling back, he tried to leap over the gap and actually landed, but the stairway gave and he fell onto the floor below. Thankfully, it wasn't a long enough fall to hurt him. However, the imp was displeased, sighing loudly as Link went up the stairs again, the gap now larger.
Do I have to do everything for you, Wolfie?
She bemoaned.
You just need some motivation.
Getting off his back, the short creature hovered across the gap and floated above where the stairs started again. She smirked at Link and beckoned at him with a finger.
Go on. You probably want to bite me after bugging you so much, huh? Well, come on and do it.
As little as Link liked using violence, this imp was certainly gearing up to be an exception. Or maybe it was because of his new form, animalistic instincts rushing through him. Either way, he found himself baring his teeth as he leapt at the imp with increased fervor. This time he made the gap with ease and tried to sink his teeth into the creature only for her to become entangleable around his jaw. Before Link even noticed what was happening, he felt her weight on his back again.
Good. See, if you actually try, you can do all sorts of things,
the imp said with a spiteful giggle.
Now go on and keep going. You want to find out where we are, huh?
Link wanted to point out that she promised to do this after he escaped his cell, but he didn't even bother trying to speak this time. With an annoyed huff, Link went up the rest of the staircase, finding himself in a circular room with a large door leading elsewhere. Before he could get his bearings further, he heard the fluttering of wings. From above, two shadowy creatures came down. Their size and the way they flapped their wings resembled keys, but the things had no heads, just lumps growing out of their necks with red markings. While the monsters swooped down at Link, all it took was a quick lunge and a savage bite to kill them. He couldn't help but notice that they had the same rotten taste as the sewer dwellers. Up above was an open door, and rocky outcrops from the wall from something there was torn off and damaged. Pretending like he was going to lunge at it and bite the imp, Link scaled his way upward and went through the door to the outside. The air hardly smelled better. That was the first thing Link noticed. He then started to realize where he was, looking out at extravagant rooftops and spires as rain fell from above. The sky above was dark, and Link realized that he had seen this wrong. The glowing white wasn't some pale sun, but the clouds, with the sky above them being black.
Ah, the dark skies of Twilight.
The imp sighed with a lack of sarcasm for once.
Feels nice to see them after being in the dungeon. So, you work out where we are yet?
As she spoke, she floated off of Link and spun through the air, apparently appreciating the unusual sky and the rain. Link forced himself to focus on the area around him. He had seen pictures of places like this, or rather, one place. The spires, the massive buildings that stretched high into the sky clearly belonged to a castle, and as he gazed around, the flags bearing the mark of the Triforce. There was only one place this could be, but surely it wasn't possible. He pushed back such thoughts, not wanting to accept the answer he had reached. The land below was unknown to Link, as a heavy fog blocked the view. Still, the size of the building itself was enough to baffle Link. It seemed to go on forever, and was probably larger than the entirety of his village. Never before did he think buildings could get so massive. Begrudgingly, he looked back at the imp, awaiting orders.
Oh, you need to know what to do next, huh?
She pointed at a tower not too far.
I want to introduce you to someone, and that someone is in that tower. So go on, take us there.
Without warning, she dropped down on his back once more. Link cautiously moved forward, noting how the stone pathways and rooftops were damaged, as if the castle had just finished fighting in a war. As he moved, he encountered more shadowy creatures, these ones even larger than he was and possessing wings. They were almost like birds, but without feathers and with leathery black skin. Like the other monsters he had seen since waking up, they had no faces, just fleshy stumps at the neck, which grew and vibrated as they let out eerie trumpeting noises when they saw him. Not wanting to bite off more than he could chew, Link avoided these monsters. Not only were they bigger than anything he had faced in his new form, one wrong move and he'd plummet down to the ground below. Thankfully, when he got far enough away from the creatures, they'd lose interest in him. Before long, he came across another spirit, and once more he decided to use his senses to see what the situation was. This spirit was yet another soldier, cowering with his weapon in hand.
Those creatures are everywhere. What's going on? Oh, poor Hyrule Castle.
That was it. Link couldn't deny it anymore. The one and only castle had existed within Hyrule was Hyrule Castle itself. But what happened? What was going on? Whatever those creatures were, they had to be responsible, but the ones he encountered so far couldn't topple Hyrule Castle on their own. That thing that had grabbed him back in Ordon, there had to be many more like it to make the castle bend to their will.
Aww,
Midna exclaimed with a pout.
he gave away the answer.
She let out a sigh and shook her head.
Well, that wasn't the person I wanted you to meet. Just keep going to the tower.
For what felt like the 100th time, Link wished he could demand answers from the imp. Panic rose in his chest, and he felt like he was going to be sick. Whatever was happening, it wasn't just impacting his home, but most likely all of Hyrule. And that creature on his back was practically treating him like a game or a joke. A low growl escaped him, one he didn't even mean to let loose, but he kept going onward regardless. Thankfully, it wasn't much further to the tower, and the window to it was open, allowing Link to slip in with ease and get out of the rain. Inside, another spiral staircase met him, but at least this one was intact.
Come on, just climb to the top,
the imp murmured, keeping her voice down.
And be quiet about it. There might be guards lurking about.
For the first time, she seemed sincerely worried about something. Link once more did as he told and hopped off the window ledge to the stairs below. Going quietly, he went up the stairs and saw a set of heavy double doors, one of them ajar enough for him to slip in. He and the imp found themselves in a luxurious bedroom, a bed 3 times the size of Link's own on the side, with dressers and a desk with a mirror on the other side, a door heading off to what was probably a washroom present as well. However, what caught Link's eye most of all was that there was a hooded figure by the room's large windows. At first he was startled, worried it was another creature, but after a moment he realized this person truly was a human. And strangely, this person wasn't a wisp or translucent, but a normal, solid human. He sensed no hostility from the cloaked figure and, in fact, felt at ease. The figure turned around and a face poked through the raised hood. Link couldn't see all the details, but pale white skin and blue eyes were evident. He could tell easily that the person was a woman and, slowly, he approached her. If the woman was scared of Link's presence, she certainly didn't show it. In fact, those sturdy blue eyes focused on the imp instead. Those eyes spoke of wisdom and maturity, a person wise beyond her years.
Midna?
The figure spoke, referring to the imp. Midna, the imp that had been toying with Link all this time, let out a small laugh.
Oh, you remember me? It's quite an honor.
As usual, her voice was laced with sarcasm. Apparently there wasn't a sincere bone in her body. The human woman didn't react to Midna's tone, and her gaze fell upon Link.
And this is who you were searching for?
Her voice was gentle and calm, a far cry from the shivering soldiers that Link had encountered. Link stared deeply into the woman's eyes, and something tugged from within him. He wasn't sure what the sensation was at first, but he quickly recognized it as nostalgia. But he didn't understand how that was possible. He had no idea who this woman was, yet he felt like he had met her long, long ago. That sense of familiarity stuck out no matter how much he tried to explain it away.
He's not exactly what I had in mind,
Midna droned, clearly disappointed.
I guess he'll have to do, though.
The woman knelt down to get a closer look at Link, staring at the shackle on his leg.
You were imprisoned? I'm sorry you had to go through that. And he has no idea what's going on. He only just found out where we are. Poor thing. If only he'd asked me what's happening.
The imp said with a titter, patting the top of Link's head as if she actually cared about him. Link let out a small growl in response, and Midna giggled.
Better watch out, he has a temper.
Despite Midna's words, the cloaked woman didn't appear afraid of Link at all.
It really isn't right what happened to him. He's been thrown into this without a clue as to what's going on. Well, you should probably explain, huh? You have a pretty big part in this, you know,
Midna pointed out.
It's the least you could do, isn't that right, Twilight Princess?
Those words confused Link. Twilight Princess? The only princess he knew of was Princess Zelda, but never under such a specific title. That raised the question, just where was the princess? Was she safe? It couldn't be that this figure was...
Listen careful,
the woman spoke, interrupting Link's thoughts.
This was once the kingdom of Hyrule, a land where the power of the golden goddesses was said to slumber.
She sighed and shook her head.
That's how it was until recently, of course. Now it has been transformed by the king of the Twilight Realm, turned into a world of shadows.
Twilight Realm? Link had never heard of such a thing, not even in old stories. He couldn't help but think about this conversation with Russell about Twilight just a few days ago. That felt like it had been a lifetime ago at this point, as if he had been trapped within this dark world for years rather than a few hours.
The attack came swiftly, without a warning, but also hidden from the citizens of Hyrule. Shadowy creatures appeared within the castle gates as if dropped in from above.
The woman explained further.
My guards fought bravely, and I was ready to take up the blade myself, but then that wicked king appeared, Zant. My men were in the clutches of his beasts, and he gave me a choice: surrender or watch my men be torn apart. Knowing I stood no chance on my own, I surrendered. And because of that...
She trailed off.
And because of that, all of Hyrule was cast in shadows,
Midna finished, almost sounding pleased.
That's why those gods appeared as spirits. They don't even know they're spirits. They just live on in fear, unaware of what's going on.
It was certainly a lot for Link to take in, especially since all he could do was listen quietly. He picked up on the wordage the woman had used. My gods and my men stuck out like a sore thumb. She surrendered Hyrule to this Zant character, so there was only one person the cloaked woman could be. As if sensing Link's thoughts, the woman stood back up and reached for her hood.
Though the kingdom succumbs to the twilight, I remain its ruler.
She lowered the hood, giving Link a good look at her face. It was strong, regal, and beautiful. Long brown hair let loose from the hood's removal. Even imprisoned, she was allowed a circlet crown, a stunning sight unlike anything Link had seen before.
I am Zelda.
Link didn't know what to do. He couldn't exactly bow, not in a way befitting royalty. Heck, he was still absorbing the revelation that a monstrous king from another realm had taken over Hyrule and plunged it into Twilight. He was sure the princess did all she could. He couldn't exactly blame her for all of this. That aside, as Link stared at Princess Zelda's fully revealed face, that sense of familiarity came back, stronger than ever. Midna piped up, breaking Link's focus. Well, I find it quite livable. Maybe if you Hylians gave it a chance, you'll learn to like it. It was hard to tell from her tone just how serious she was. This is not the time for jokes, Princess Zelda replied, her voice soft, yet it had a commanding edge to it. Don't forget, the shadow beasts have been looking for you all over the kingdom. Tell me, why is that? When she started being questioned, Midna started to float up, positioning herself as if sitting on an invisible chair as she faced away from the princess. Why? You seem smart. Why don't you tell me? The imp let out a titter, but did not face Princess Zelda as she spoke. A small sigh escaped the princess's nose, the first outward sign that Midna's attitude bothered her. In that case, the two of you should leave quickly. The guard will be making its rounds at any time. Link wished he could do something to help the princess, to offer comforting words at least. It was growing increasingly frustrating for him that he was stuck, unable to do anything useful or say anything at all. These thoughts were interrupted as Midna landed on his back again. You heard the lady. Come on, before some creatures catch us in here. The wolf made his way out of the room, looking back at Princess Zelda for a brief moment. Russell's words echoed in his mind about how he had to treat royalty with the uttermost respect. He turned around and bent one of his forelegs and bowed his head, doing his best to bow to the princess while still in his beastly form. Only after that did he turn and walk out of the door. That sense of familiarity was still apparent and bewildering, even after he had left Princess Zelda's presence. Out in the staircase, Link made his way downward, flinching as an unseen door at the bottom opened. Thinking fast, he looked to the window he initially entered the tower from and leapt up to it, just barely making the jump and scrambling a bit. Still, he made it without being seen and went back to the rooftops once more. Midna hovered off of Link's back, floating in front of him before turning and grinning. Now you know where we are and what's going on. See? You got some of those answers. And my, such manners bowing to Zelda even as a lowly beast. She then smirked wider, showing off more and more of her teeth. I'd let you just go back to wherever you stumbled into this realm, but I'm sure you have something more important on your mind, like... Without warning, she spun in place, and in a blink of an eye, she took on the form of Colin. Midna let out a scream mimicking his voice perfectly. Spinning again, she took on Ilia's appearance and yelled out in her voice as well. She retained the form, sneering down at Link. Link snarled at the display. Was she just mocking his friend's situation now? She had seen all of that? Just how long had she been watching him? He couldn't help but bare his teeth at her, feeling hurt seeing an imp take on Ilia's visage and look at him in such a way. Now, Midna said, keeping Ilia's voice. You don't want to make me mad, do you? Because I was going to help. At this point, she returned to her normal form. You just have to be my servant, and that means doing whatever I say, got it? Hadn't he already been doing that? Once more, Link found himself in a situation where he couldn't refuse. If he wanted any chance of helping his friends, he'd need Midna's help, whether he wanted it or not. Midna leaned in, her sole visible eye narrowing. How about we head back and you can think it over in a place closer to home? Before Link could even consider her words, he felt himself being pulled upwards. The sensation was hard to describe, but it was like one piece of him was going at a time. Before he knew it, the world around him went entirely dark, and the smell of rot and the cold touch of the rain vanished as well.